For decades, the Soviet Union ruled the chess world with an iron grip. From the mid-20th century through the 1980s, Soviet players didn't just dominate tournaments, they defined how the game was played. By this time, Bobby Fischer, the American who briefly broke their monopoly, had disappeared from competitive chess. With no challenger from the West, the Soviets entered what many consider their golden era, a time when nearly every world champion, every top contender came from behind the Iron Curtain. Amidst this reign, two former world champions stood out not just for their titles, but for their radically opposing approaches to the game. On one side was Mikhail Tal, the magician from Riga. Tal was an artist of chaos, a fearless, unpredictable, and utterly singular player. He lived for wild sacrifices and relentless assaults, aiming to pull his opponents into what he famously called a deep dark forest where 2 + 2 = 5. On the other side was Anatoly Karpov, the master of order and precision. While Tal thrived in complexity, Karpov sought absolute control. He would slowly squeeze his opponents, denying them the slightest chance at a counterattack, and winning by suffocation rather than spectacular flair. If Tal was fire, Karpov was ice. These two legends rarely produced decisive results against each other. In fact, out of 20 classical games, 19 were draws, a testament to their mutual respect and world-class defensive skills. But in blitz chess, where the clock forces intuition to take over, anything can happen. In 1987, at the SWIFT International Blitz Tournament in Brussels, Tal was well past his classical prime and battling serious health issues, while Karpov remained near the peak of his powers, even after losing the World Championship to Garry Kasparov. Yet despite his frailty, Tal was still feared in fast time controls. He had a reputation for finding poison in any position, even defeating Kasparov himself in blitz. And on this day, against Karpov, Tal would unleash one of his most brilliant sacrifices and relentless attacks, proving that his magical style was timeless. So how did the magician crush one of the most solid players in chess history in such a spectacular manner? Let's find out. But before we dive into the game, consider subscribing and dropping a like if you enjoy classic chess games. All right, let's get into it. Tal opened the game with e4, and Karpov responded with the Caro-Kann defense. Tal countered with c4, the Panov attack, an aggressive reply designed to challenge the solid Caro-Kann. Karpov continues with d5, a few pawn exchanges, knight developed to f6, knight c3, knight takes pawn, knight f3, knight takes, and Tal captures toward the center, avoiding queen exchange if white takes with the d-pawn. g6 by Karpov, preparing to fianchetto the bishop, d4, bishop g7, bishop d3, and both players castled. Knight c6, rook e1, rook e8, supporting e5 push, and Tal immediately denied Karpov's plan by playing bishop g5, pinning the pawn. So Karpov continues with bishop e6, a somewhat awkward square that blocks his own pawn's mobility, and in true Tal fashion, he immediately launches an attack with rook takes bishop. Sacrifice the exchange to weaken black's position around his king, and a very weak doubled pawn on the e-file that can be targeted easily. After Karpov took the rook, Tal continues with a simple move. Bishop to c4 attacks the pawn. Black defends with queen d6, queen e2, adding another attacker, knight back to d8. Tal keep piling up the attack with rook e1, and rook c8 hitting the bishop. Instead of taking the pawn with the bishop, Tal opt for defending the bishop with knight d2, king h8, moving away from the mask of the bishop, knight e4 hitting the queen, queen slides to c7, keeping the pressure on the bishop and the pawn, bishop b3, and e5. Tal ignored it and played h4, looking for h5 to further weaken black king defenses. Pawn takes d5, Tal ignores again and continues his plan by playing h5, pawn takes, and unfortunately Tal makes an error with his next move, queen takes h5. The stronger move would have been knight f6, exploiting the pin, and if black tried to save the rook, white had another devastating move, knight takes h7. If black takes, then it's a simple mate in 2. Anyway, after queen takes h5, Karpov continues with rook f8, moving away from the pin, bishop c2, putting pressure on this diagonal, queen e5, and Tal unleashed another brilliant move, knight g3, completely ignoring the hanging rook. He took the free rook with check, only move king g2, and Karpov played the critical mistake h6. He should have played bishop h6, giving back the piece. After white takes with the bishop or the queen, black has a decisive defense with rook f7, covering h7. Anyway, after h6, Tal captures with bishop, king moves to g8, bishop takes bishop, and after Karpov's final desperate attempt with rook takes f2, Tal had a mate in 3. He missed the mate in 3 and went with mate in 4, and it started with queen h7 check, king f7, queen g6, king g8, and after bishop h6, Karpov finally resigned the game. Only move king h8 and queen g7. Checkmate. This game was a perfect reminder of why Mikhail Tal is considered one of the greatest attacking players of all time. Even while past his prime and in declining health, he could conjure up a masterpiece against one of the most precise defenders in chess history. In the years that followed, Tal's health continued to deteriorate, but his love for the game never faded. His final years were marked by both physical struggle and flashes of brilliance. Moments where, for a few moves, the old magic returned. Tal passed away in 1992 at just 55 years old, leaving behind a legacy of games that still inspire players and captivate audiences to this day. Karpov, meanwhile, remained a dominant force at the very top of chess. Though he never regained the World Championship title after losing it to Kasparov, he continued to be a consistent challenger, winning elite tournaments and maintaining a presence among the world's best well into the 1990s. Over time, he shifted his focus to politics and chess diplomacy, becoming a prominent figure outside the board as well. Looking back, this game serves as a symbolic clash between two giants of the game. Tal inspired generations of attacking players, showing that risk and artistry could coexist at the highest level. Karpov set the standard for precision and positional mastery, influencing countless students of the game. So what do you think of this game? If you enjoyed the breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments which classic matchup you'd like to see next.